today's book of choice is The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. So, this one I don't have an actual printed out notes for, mostly because I know this story off the top of my heart. That being said, because I did the other one like it, I'm going to read you the chapters. These ones had 17. You had Lucy looks in the wardrobe. Sorry, into the wardrobe. What Lucy found there. Edmund and the wardrobe. Turkish delight. Back on this side of the door. Into the forest. A day with the beavers. Sorry, my cat is trying to eat a paper towel. What happened after dinner? In the witch's house. The spell begins to break. Aslan is near. Peter's first battle. The deep magic from the dawn of time. She's trying to eat a hanger now. The triumph of the witch. Deeper magic from before the dawn of time. What happened about the statues and the hunting of the white stag. If you know nothing about this book, the characters are the Pevensies, which is Peter, Susan, Edmund, and Lucy. Obviously you have Aslan and the White Witch. Other important characters would be Mr. Tumnus and the Beavers. So, going into this, I obviously watched the movies first, and comparing this to the movies, in the movie, if you don't know, they're playing hide and seek whenever Lucy just ends up in Narnia. That's not what happens. Nope, they're just exploring. They have to go to the professor's house because, you know, war. So they ended up there and they're just exploring, and she finds this wardrobe and she just goes in. But she doesn't close it behind her because that's a stupid thing to do. They make sure that that part is hammered into your head. Don't close the door because that's a dumb move. So, she doesn't close the door. She goes in and she finds Narnia. Look at that. Magical world at the other side of your wardrobe. It plays out similar to the movie. She ends up meeting Mr. Tumnus. He takes her back to the cave. They have food. And he eventually says, oh yeah, sorry, I'm kidnapping you because the witch, she wants every human brought, and you know, the whole deal where, you know, humans are bad. They threaten her reign, and I don't know about you, but if I was a child, I probably wouldn't go back to that world where humans are bad and there's a death threat against you, because let's be real, that queen wants y'all dead. So I don't think I'd go back to that world. I'm sorry, Lucy. You're a better person than me. If you heard that thump, that's my other cat. That's Nuggy. She just jumped off the fridge onto the table. If you hear plastic, that's Pip and my dad's lunch teas. So, she goes back, they get that whole thing where it's like, oh, you were gone hours now, you were only gone a few seconds, girl. You just stayed back while we continued to explore. But whenever they went to go check out the wardrobe, there's nothing there. Because, you know, you gotta plant that seed of doubt. I don't know why she expected it to work, because I'd be thinking, if that was me, that, oh, I spent this lovely time there. Yeah, it must have been a nap because, well, my siblings would know better. It had to be a nap, right? I mean, there can't be a world over there. Plus, you know that whole thing about, if I go back, I'm gonna die, so I'd be slightly a little bit, you know, just kinda happier that, you know, it didn't work. But then, you know, Edmund gets in. He doesn't find Mr. Tumnus. He finds the White Witch. Which, honestly, Edmund, my dude, in every version of Edmund, in this version, you know, in the story, he's just a little jerk. He's a pain. But he meets the witch, which honestly isn't all that shocking that he would end up finding the witch first and not Mr. Tumnus, or even the beavers, or bird that could talk. You know, let's just go find the witch. And it's cold, it's winter all the time, because, you know, the witch likes winter, or spring is bad, that means Aslan is near, and her reign is over. So she brings him over onto her sledge, whatever it is, and she offers him, hey, you hungry? What you want? I can get it for you. He asked for Turkish delight, which I don't know if any of you have tried, but I personally did in 5th grade whenever our teacher made it for us after we had first talked about Narnia, and it doesn't taste the best, but I do believe that it's, or at least was, at some point considered like a Christmas treat. So in a way, her giving it to him in a land with no Christmas, but it's always winter, kind of sets everything into motion, because, well, now he's had the spell, he's under her control, hey, go get your family. Now, in this version, they're not going to be his servants, which that's how I always thought it would be, because, you know, the movie, I saw that first. But, you know, you need people, like, under you, a duke and all that. So bring your family. They'll still have a title. They're not going to be servants, but you'll still be above them. I thought that was an interesting change. Obviously, I have Uma Thurman and Scanner talking in my head. Anytime Lucy spoke, I had Georgie. Especially because they used a lot of her lines, I realized. So he gets expelled, they go back, and, you know, he can't necessarily be like, hey, yeah, I know I called my sister crazy, but there's actually a place there. The professor, God bless him, he talks to Susan and Peter like in the movies, and he questions whether or not, you know, which one did you believe? That was before Ed went in, obviously, like it is in the movie. I love the professor, and I know his backstory now, so that's cool. But eventually, they all go through, but not because they break a window and they end up in that area, like in the movie. His housekeeper, Professor's housekeeper, ends up leading these tours through the manor, the house, but she doesn't want the kids anywhere nearby. So they have to be out of sight. But they keep feeling and keep thinking that they hear her and the tours following them, so they end up into the wardrobe. Ironically, that is exactly how it happens in the video game version of the story. I never noticed that until now and never put the connection together. Yes, I had the video game for it. Anyone surprised there? So, they all go through. Hey, Ed, why you lie? They go off to find out that Mr. Tumnus is no longer there. They meet a bird. Tiffany and I always called Robin Robin because, you know, talking bird, talking Robin. They might not have given Robin a proper name because, you know, you had Mr. Beaver, Mrs. Beaver. So Robin is Robin in our canon. So Robin takes them and they find Mr. Beaver. That more or less happened the same in the movie, so cool. I knew that was coming. I didn't know that Mr. Beaver smoked. You know, that's not all that shocking. It was a different time, so a lot of characters smoke. A lot of characters drink. So, you know, it be what it be. I don't necessarily think that children should be drinking. But they become kings and queens later, and, you know, that's the life. So, different world, different time, different set of rules. I believe these books were written in, like, the 60s, so, again, different time. So, they end up going to Mr. Beaver. Edmund hears the prophecy and slips out so he can go to the queen. And why didn't they keep better check of this idiotic brother of theirs? I know plot had the plot, but Peter and Susan were keeping better track on him before, and now when it was convenient, he just slips away. You know, they get this prophecy, they need to be there, you're gonna save us, you're gonna lead the army, and we're gonna finally be free of her. He slips away. You could have stopped everything. Could have, you know, plot had the plot. I know. I'm gonna say that a lot in these reviews. But they end up doing that. He goes and, you know, in the movie, he gets put in the dungeon, and there's this whole thing where Mr. Tumnus is still there. He's still very much not a statue. But in the books, whenever he gets there, Mr. Tumnus is already a statue. And the wolf that scared the bejesus out of me in the movies, because I don't know about you, but I, as a child, did not do jump scares. I still don't really like jump scares. So whenever that wolf just kind of leapt forward in the room full of statues, it was a bad time for me. I jumped. I always hated that scene. Oh my goodness, you're so talkative today. Anyway. She eventually takes him off onto this journey. Another difference that I noticed, that if you've seen the movies, whenever the remaining Pevensies, Mr. and Mrs. Beaver, all decide to skedoodle and escape through the tunnels, it takes him out to this little party where his friends are hanging out. And they're all turned into statues at this point. Obviously he's sad. But that's not what happened in the books. There is that party that eventually gets turned into statues, but the White Witch is doing that while she still has Edmund in tow, because they're racing to try and get to the stone table first, because he spills a lot of information. Yes, she sends the wolves to destroy the beaver's house, and all of that remains true. I'm not all that shocked, but still, just minor differences. Honestly, this was one that they, I think, kept truer to form. So, you know, that's great. Eventually they get to the camp, and there's some more minor changes. They're already at the stone table at that point in time. Whenever the remaining 3 Pevensies meet Aslan, they're already there, they're already discussing the battle plan, and then they move to where the battle takes place. And that's whenever, you know, we have the whole thing. Well, they don't move exactly first, because the witch has her people try and take him out. The wolves, Peter kills the wolf, they free Edmund, they bring him back, and then they have the whole conversation, like in the movie, hey, yeah, you got a traitor in your midst. I read this part during Easter week. So whenever we eventually get to the part where we have the stone table, which this is what it looks like in the book, by the way, if you've never seen it. So whenever we got to that part where she's talking about how you are going to give your life for this traitor and you're going to save no one, basically, with that knowledge that despair die. I read that part on Easter morning, and if you're not a Christian and you don't know, Easter is the day that Jesus rose from the dead after giving his life for everybody. So whenever that part happened, I was bawling. I texted Tiffany, I'm like, hey, yeah, he's dead. I'm emotional now. And then, not very long later, he's alive! It was a very emotional time, especially given that it was Easter morning, and, you know, very, very, very good, very powerful scene, because he rises back, death itself reversed, the stone table is cracked, which the veil was torn in the temple, if you don't know, like I said, the Christian story. So, the good news, Jesus rose again, Aslan rose again, there's the battle, they go free everyone that's a statue, and Peter's already fighting the battle, obviously. The White Witch is destroyed by Aslan, not Peter. That is exactly how it is in the book, that's how it is in the movie. I have the battle music playing in my head now. And they go off to become the kings and queens of Narnia. Once a king and queen of Narnia, always a king and queen of Narnia until the stars rain down and habits, all that fun stuff. But then eventually they go off, talking real fancy like, to find this stag. And that's when they go home. That is always the sad part, that they go home and all of that happens and then they're kids again. The professor finds them, they have another little chat, and the story ends there. 5 out of 5 stars. Will definitely be reading again. Probably not around Easter because that was that was hard. No critiques outside of, Mr. Beaver, maybe don't smoke. Obviously Santa's in it because he gives them their weapons. Good on you, Santa. You finally get to come back to Narnia. And yeah, great book.